Okay, so I've got my still messy title block, but I've done something, and I've got my copied layout, and I've started to play around with the viewports there. But now I want to spend a bit of time making viewports where I've spent a bit more time setting up the scale and showing the things we need, because you need to make these different drawings at different scales. The first set there, the floor plans and the sections and the RCP, will be at 1 to 50. And I thought I might take this chance actually to show you all what an RCP is as well. So, well, you can probably tell already from the drawing list that an RCP is a reflected ceiling plan. And I know you did some of this before, but I'm not sure how much you've done. Have you all drawn reflected ceiling plans before? A little bit? Yep. Yep. Good, good. Okay, so I probably don't describe them too much. Yep. Yep. So, okay, so with this floor plan here, I can probably just change the formatting and make that into a reflected ceiling plan. And so instead of copying it, in some situations you may want to copy the whole thing over to one side and then modify it to turn it into the reflected ceiling plan. But in this case, I'm going to simply overlay or use this drawing to create my ceiling plan. So I'll do that mostly with layers, and so I might actually set that up straight away. And so going back to my layout, I've got, again, layout 1. And maybe, because I know I'm going to use this viewport again, I'm going to label it. So I'll just get some of the text that I've drawn in the title block and copy that across. And reformat it. So let's say 5mm. Oh, an A3 actually, sorry, that's a bit big, so maybe 3.5. And this will be ground, well, it's not really ground floor, is it? Does anyone know what level the unit is? Or what number the unit is? No, okay, let's make it up. Unit 17 floor plan. And then if I again select the text and look in properties, I'm going to change the justification there to centre. Right, and then I might draw a line after maybe just changing the size of my viewport. Okay, so here I'm just trying to get that viewport set up, basically how it'll be for the reflected ceiling plan as well. So by putting the text there and adjusting the size, now I can save myself some effort when I copy this page. If I right click on the tab, move all copy, tick create a copy, and this time I'm going to choose the layout below, because it'll put my copy above the one I choose. Okay, so if I chose move to end, it would go above move to end, if that makes sense. In other words, it would go at the end of the list. But if I choose this one, it'll go in between the two that I've already made. So now it's my new one, there it is. And so this will be my reflected ceiling plan. I may as well just label that now. So reflected ceiling plan, or RCP. And then an easy way of making a different drawing out of this floor plan is firstly to activate the viewport. So hopefully you're starting to remember this button down the bottom. When it says paper, it will switch when you click on it to model. and then it will say model, and you'll see a viewport border is going to be highlighted, and that means that viewport's active. So then, I'm just going to click onto that hatch object, go back to the Home tab, and then I can see the layer it's on. You don't have to do that. If you remember the layer, you can always choose it from the list. And so here I'm going to use an option that you don't have normally in your layers, but that you get with viewports. So looking at the options that I've got there in this list that comes up when you click on the panel there, you can see next to that tiles list, so next to all the layers, we've got the on-off option first, but that'll turn off the tiles in all the viewports. Okay, I want the tiles still in this one, so that's no good. I can't turn that layer off because I need the tiles in my other floor plan. The next option after that, has anyone looked at using that one, with the one that looks like a sun? And seen what that does? What does it do differently to turning things on and off? Not much is the answer. So if you've been wondering why they've got two ways of turning things off, it's just because it's good to have two ways. Sometimes you want things frozen, which means you can have them turned off more permanently, and then other layers you can have turned off or on with the light bulb, and it just gives you a different system of turning things on and off. There are historical reasons for it, but you don't need to worry about those. So I really just think of those as two different ways of turning things on and off, either the light bulb or the sun and the snowflake. But then next to that one, you have another icon that's also got a little sun icon on it, but it's got a big rectangle, and that rectangle is your viewport. So what this means is freeze, or turn off, in other words, freeze only in the current viewport. So I'm going to click on that now, and you can see it will turn my tiles off in this view, but if I go back to layout 1, tiles are still on there. So that's a really useful option when you're working on layout, because that way you can have different combinations of layers turned on and off in different viewports, and you won't need to make so many drawings. Right, now another useful option when you're working with layouts is the ability to lock a viewport. Okay, so here you can see I've set it to it's actually 1 to 100. We need to make them 1 to 50 later, but we'll worry about that later. So for now, I'm just trying to show you the process. And so again, here we've got the scale showing as 1 to 100 there. Next to that, I've got the lock option. So I'm going to click on that padlock, which locks the viewport, and that means if I zoom, can you see how it's zooming the whole page? But I'm still in model space. And I'll just show you the difference. If I go back to the previous layout, I'll go into model space, so clicking on the paper button goes into model, the viewport's highlighted. If I zoom, it's zooming inside the viewport, because that one's not locked. Down here you can see it's 1 to 100. When I zoom, it's not 1 to 100 anymore. So I'll undo that. This time I'll lock it. Now if I zoom, it's still in the viewport, but the scale won't change. You can't change the scale until you unlock it. So that's a really useful option when you're working at scale in Viewport. Oh, yeah, you can do that. It's the same option. Yeah, it is. That's right. It is. That's right. Yeah. So, so then you can go and freeze a lot of the other layers. So the doors, for example, don't need to show. It's good to keep the openings, so you know where the door is. But, well, do you know why it's not typical to have the doors showing like this in a reflected ceiling plan? Pretty much, yeah, that's right. So you might have lighting or other things that are mounted to the ceiling in this area. And that's okay because they're up above the door. But if you're showing the door in that open position, it can look like the door's interfering with the things on the ceiling or vice versa. So it's a convention to have those things frozen. So I can, again, freeze the door cut layer in the current viewport, and also my door swing layer, but still leaving the door openings. So that's the conventional way of showing reflected ceiling plans. The grid can be turned off in the viewport. That won't print anyway. Bathroom fittings normally don't need to show either in a reflected ceiling plan, so they can all be frozen.
Oh, no, why? Because sometimes you want to have spotlight just on top of it.
That's right. So in that situation, what you do, so I'll just change these. So what you would do is just unfreeze that layer so that you can position your lights,
Yep.
but then you would still turn it off for the finished drawing because you don't want to see bars and other things covering up your ceiling objects. The purpose of this drawing is to show what's on the ceiling, really. So, yeah. Okay, so that's a good way of setting up your reflected ceiling plans. The openings here don't really need to be removed, but because again they're not going to interfere with things on the ceiling, but wouldn't hurt. So they're on the. I've been a bit lazy and put them on my window layer, but if that's okay, they can go too. Window projection. That's good. I know, what is it? Oh, door projection. Sorry. There we are. So then you may need to draw some extra lines though to close things off. So here actually that wall projection layer needs to stay on. So yep, so there you probably still want to have lines drawn for the threshold, which you can just draw in something like that. So you should at least have that. You don't want to have a clear opening. But again, the main purpose of these drawings is to show what's on the ceiling. So I'm just going to go back to the model tab. And I'm going to show you where you can get a block that's really useful for these things. If you go, you don't need to go to the Insert tab, just on the Home tab you can go to Insert from there and then More Options. And then Browse and go to P Drive, Student Resources, Interior Design. I can't see, there it is. Interior Design, and then AutoCAD Library, Blocks 2D, and then Legends. If you missed any of those things, so it's P Drive, Interior Design, AutoCAD Library, Blocks 2D. So then you'll see again Legends, and you've got there an electrical legend. So that's set up for 1 to 100, and that's fine. And then double click. And after I click OK, I'm just going to place that to the side roughly. And then enter if it asks for any options. And then I'm going to explode it. So after it's selected, I can just click Explode. And it's really just to get the symbols. You don't need to use all of these, but you've got some symbols there for lighting. So you've got a recess downlight here. It's nothing special, it's just a square anyway, so you could probably draw that. But if you don't know the symbols, it's handy just for that. And anything else, so you've got there, again, another useful one might be the exhaust fan. So you can just copy these items from the legend. Yeah. Don't worry about the text too much, you probably can redo that anyway. So we'll have definitely an exhaust vent in the kitchen somewhere, and probably the bathrooms too. Placing them roughly for now, and I'll fine tune the position. So, the bathroom. Yeah, well, yeah, it doesn't. Does it have a window down here or something? It doesn't, right, okay, well, yeah, so it definitely needs one by law, and then, yeah, you might want something else. So then, some of the other lights you might want to use. Fluorescence maybe would be totally wrong here. So a lot of the others, if they're very simple, things like circular downlights, here it's just a square one, but if you're doing a circular downlight, often you can just draw a circle that's the same size. So just use these as a guide, and if you need to draw in extra symbols, you can easily do that. So you should make a layer for your lighting too. So a circle, sometimes if it's doubled, that's good enough for a downlight. Okay, but as long as you've got a legend, the symbol's really up to you. A lot of people will put a cross to locate these, but you don't have to. So again, just very roughly putting in some lighting here. You'll need to spend a bit more time on it. So the main thing is that it shows here on the reflected ceiling plan. And then, again, it's really important that you have a layer for your lighting. So I'll make one now. And I will just put my exhaust fans on the same layer for the time being. Probably make another layer for those as well, or for services. But I've got all of these things on the ceiling now, at least on their own layer. And so I can see them here. I know it's a bit hard because of the colour, so I might actually make that colour a bit darker. So there we are. But then the most important thing is that I can go back to my floor plan viewport and freeze the lighting layer in this viewport. Because we don't want to see the lighting or anything on the ceiling in our normal floor plan. So can you see there how you can get multiple drawings out of the one drawing essentially? So I've got this one drawing back in the model, it's got all these different things, but by using combinations of layers differently in the viewports, I can achieve these different drawings, the floor plan and the reflected ceiling plan, from one drawing, which should make it less work for you. But then I can even get drawings like this, particularly the kitchen floor plan, from the original floor plan. So I'll just finish up showing you that. So again, I might copy this viewport now. But before I do, I've got some pretty confusing layout names now because I haven't been changing them. You can double click on a layout to change the name. So this will be A3. What's going on? Yep, A3. And it's floor plan and section. And then the second one is A3 as well. Reflected ceiling plan, so RCP. Stands for reflected ceiling plan. And so I might copy the first one again. So again, just by right-clicking on that and going to Move or Copy and choosing below the one I want it to go after. Create a copy again, of course, down the bottom. Okay, and now I'll give my new drawing or new layout a better name straight away. So we'll call that A3 Kitchen. So it's just frozen on me. There go. That might be enough. So I've got the ground floor plan obviously showing the same way. So I'm going to double click to make that viewport active, and that's actually a shortcut you might find handy as well. So you can obviously use the button I've been showing you down the bottom, but if you double click inside of viewport, that does the same thing. If you want to go back onto the page, double click outside it, and it's the same as going back to paper. But again, double clicking inside. Now I've made the viewport active, but I want to change the scale. So I've got to unlock it first, and then I can zoom in to the kitchen area. And actually, because I haven't drawn the kitchen, I might do, I'll do the bathroom instead. So why don't I change the layout? Okay, so I'll change that layout name straight away. And so I want a detailed plan of the bathroom area. So I've just used pan and zoom to roughly center the view on that area, that bathroom. I'm going to turn the grid off as well, just so it's easier to see the hatching. So I've got the things I want showing in that viewport roughly centered in the viewport. And now I'm simply going to choose the scale, make it 1 to 20. So then you can see it's cropping that bathroom, so I need to make the viewport bigger. And well, firstly, I might just pan and bring this up so that I can see the bottom part of the wall coming around the corner there. Now I can go back to the paper, click on the edge of the viewport and use the grips to make it smaller where I need to on the side, but also to make it bigger where I need to at the top. Just pan, and then I can just keep extending that. The section viewport's getting in the way, so I'll just select that and then drag it to one side. And, well, that's showing everything, but maybe it'll be a little bit clearer if I make it a little bit bigger and bring it in that way as well. But I maybe don't need the door here, so I'll bring it back there and maybe try and cut that out. That's probably a good spot to finish it. Maybe here, maybe back a bit as well. Okay, so there we are. So you can see how now I've got 3 drawings from the one floor plan. So just by having a different scale, you can easily show everything you need for that bathroom from your floor plan. And so worst case, you may have the, you need to show your floor wastes. And so that might be going too far in this floor plan. The floor waste is going to be fairly small, and it might be too much detail for this floor plan. But if you wanted to show in this viewport, with the bathroom only, but not in that original floor plan, what do you need to then think about when you're drawing the floor waste? What do you need to make first? Maybe a layer? Okay, so if you make a layer for the floor waste, you can then have that layer turned on in this viewport, but frozen in the original floor plan. So just think about those things as you make additional drawings, and particularly when you need to make new layers. And so that way you should easily be able to get the, sorry, that's assessment 2, assessment 3, there we are. So you should easily be able to get all of the 1 to 50 drawings and the 1 to 20 drawings from the same drawings. So particularly the floor plans, but even some of the elevations, because you can get that from the sections. Now, when it comes to the details at 1 to 5, then it becomes a bit less efficient to do that to use that process. So often for the details, it's not worth trying to draw that extra detail in over the top of, say, the sections that you'll draw through the kitchen. So what you should probably do there is just draw the sections. So remember, you need to draw the sections first anyway, and try to take a section through both the kitchen. So definitely need a kitchen, or try and pick up some kitchen cabinets in a section that goes this way. Okay, so I might even draw a section line just to give you some hints there. So a section that goes through the kitchen area, that direction, that maybe looks this way. Okay, so looking in this direction. So okay, so if you've got it that way, then you should pick up some kitchen cabinets, but you're also going to get some of the partitions and other things that you'll need to pick up. And then for the bathroom details, again, if you have a section going through part of the bathroom, that would be good, but that one's a bit trickier because a section going this way, we'll just That's right. But yeah, so what you should probably do though is just draw the section like this, and then copy part of it to one side, and then add the detail to that, rather than trying to draw it over the main section. It just becomes too hard otherwise. So yeah, so again, when you're doing your main sections, if you have them like this, that'll be pretty good. Yeah, I thought maybe you could do this section a bit lower, but I think because you have to do the bathroom and the joinery details, so the kitchen elevations as well, but definitely the bathroom elevations, you'll be doing those anyway. So yeah, so probably you'll see it'll make sense once you've done the bathroom elevations, and also same with the kitchens. Then it'll probably be clearer to you how you can do the joinery details just by copying from those. So yeah, I'll give you some time to try and set those views up, but then if you've done that, then you probably want to spend some time setting up those other drawings that you'll need. So as well as the floor plan, which is going to include your reflected ceiling plan, you'll definitely have a section projected straight above that. Then you're going to need sections projected left or right. And then don't forget you're going to have to project off all four sides of the bathroom and all four sides of the kitchen. So you should have 8 drawings. Could be all 4 sides, but actually you need to think about which sides you need. You don't always need to draw all the elevations, and it depends on your design and the bathroom layout. So how many elevations would you think you need for the bathroom here? Well, yeah, more than 2. So think about the tiles. That's a good way of working it out. And also the fittings. So you should at least have 3, because you'd want to show the bath, the WC. So that's going to be the elevation to the right. You're going to show the bench down here. You need to show the face of that bench. So there's be one south. And then you also need to show the face of the bench over here. So that's one to the left. So at least 3. But really, you'd have tiles usually on this wall as well. So I'd say for the bathroom, you probably still need to do 4 elevations. But again, there's a minimum 3 because you've got those units that you need to design, essentially. Right? So for interiors, that's really what you're getting paid for, to design things like that. So you definitely need to show elevations of all of those units. Then the kitchen, it's going to depend on your design. Let's say you've got, where's my furniture? Oh, I don't have one else on this. So, say you've got a U-shaped layout. Let's do that again. So a U-shaped layout, something like this. So if that's your basic kitchen plan, then you could probably have 3 elevations, one for each face of those benches, because you don't really need an elevation to show the ends of those bench units. So you could just have 3, in which case you'd have a symbol like that, with the top one missing. But if you had, say, a bench or a counter coming across like this, so just a simple change to the layout. Okay, so how many elevations do you think you'd need with a layout like that? Yeah, well, you'd think 4, because you would need at least 4, but actually you'd probably need 5. Because of the, no, just the plan. So you'd need all 4 sides that you can see from the inside here. So you'd have doors there, doors there, doors here, doors here. So you'd need all 4 directions from that inner area. But then you're also going to have the face of the counter that's visible from up here. So you'd have another elevation for up there, looking towards that face. And that's probably the most important one, because that's the part that's visible from the living space. And again, for interiors, they're paying you to think about those things, the finishes and all the materials that you specify in elevation. That's really the bulk of the work. So those drawings are essential, and so I know when I was working building cabinets and things for interior designers, they would come in to the factory with those drawings, and often they were more important than the floor plans. In fact, sometimes they wouldn't give us floor plans; they just give us the elevations. So again, that's how you'll make the bathroom and the kitchen elevations. But then the details will come at the end, after you've done all of those other drawings. And they will probably be drawn off to the side as completely separate drawings. So you can start setting those out really whenever you're ready, but before you go too far with all of the drawing and get bogged down with the detail in the actual apartment, it's really important that you at least begin your sheet setup. So I had some pages set up with the title blocks, viewports at different scales, and it's really important because it gives you a good idea of the work you need to do. You can plan it out then much more better, or much more effectively, more better. And then also you don't go too far, because I see a lot of people probably, thinking that they're doing the right thing, and going and drawing in lots of detail in their plans, because that's the way they're designing. They've designed all these things, they're thinking about all of that detail, and often it's never seen by anyone. You have all this detail that's often not going to show on any of your finished drawings. And I see it all the time. There's a famous story of a guy who designed a submarine for the US Navy, and well, he didn't design it, but he had to draw it all up. Someone else had designed it, and he drew in every single nut, bolt, screw in the submarine. And he did it in 3D too, not just 2D like we're doing. And so he thought he was being really conscientious and doing the right thing, because he was making it perfectly, exactly like it was going to be built. The problem is that file ended up being so big that no one could open it. This was in the late 80s, and computers weren't as big back then, and so the file was a total write-off. But he was wasting his time anyway, because you don't need to draw all of that. If you are documenting even a submarine, all you need to show is a way of locating those bolts if you need to, and often a dashed line is going to show it on a plan. You don't need to draw all of the detail. And so a good way of working out the detail that you need to draw is setting up the sheets. Once you've set up the sheets, then you know really clearly, hopefully, what you need to draw. So again, it might seem like it's out of order when you're first told to do that you need to set your sheets up before you finish drawing, but it's really important that you do it. And it will actually make it less work for you if you do that. So again, make sure you set your sheets up, and even do some practice printing. It's a good way of also then, when I've got this set up, I'll just show you very last thing. Looking at the print output, even in the print preview, I can zoom in now and see my line weights. So I can see there I've got nice heavy lines for the walls. The bench top is a little bit lighter, and then the tiles are lighter again. So that reads nicely. That's how it should be. This wall probably would be hatched in the end anyway, but still the line weights are good. The edge of the viewport isn't printing, so we could maybe put some break lines in there to neaten that up a bit later. Otherwise though, you can see the layout there has the things that I want, with the line weights mostly and other graphics. So that is probably enough, but I could also, if I want to get a better idea of those line weights, actually print it out, and I do this quite often as I'm working through my projects. Waste a bit of paper and just check the line weights. It's much easier than waiting until the end and fixing 20 pages because you haven't checked it at the beginning. I might cancel that because it's frozen. So have you seen this when it has a problem with the printing in here? If you haven't, just watch out for this. It's actually, I'm happy that it came up because it's been happening a lot. And here we are. So it's actually a problem with the PDF converter. If we go back to print here. Oh no, sorry, it's because I sent to the plotter, so that's okay. That's a different thing. So I'm just going to cancel that one. Okay, so sending it through to the plotter takes a little bit longer, but if you send it through to the laser printer, it's not so bad. But what I also want you to see is if you're using Adobe PDF, just be careful in here, or just be aware of the fact that it does have some bugs at the moment with the software. So I'm going to just send it through to that, and this time it's worked. Okay, so that's made my PDF file and it's gone through pretty quickly, but you might see when you do it that it freezes or it takes a long time, and it's just an error with the PDF software. So if that happens, there we go, that's worked fine this time. But you'll know when it happens because it comes up with a window up here which will take half an hour, sometimes even longer, to go through. And if that happens, the only way to make it work is to close down all your programs, and sometimes you'll have to restart the computer and then it should work. It's a memory issue and it's an Adobe problem, so just be aware of that. Otherwise, you shouldn't have too much trouble printing and making your PDF files. So I'll finish up there. I'll just say though, make sure you do make some PDF files, even if you don't want to do a physical print. At least make some PDF files so you can go through that process of setting up a print.